All right, welcome back, guys, to the final round. My name is Jake. It's official. Dana White versus Eddie Hearn. Now, it's just here we're going to talk about primarily what Dana White has said in his recent interview, going into what I think is going to be the biggest promoter battle for the next 5-10 years. No offense to Uncle Frank, he ain't going to be around forever. I think Oscar is going to fuck him. Is going to fuck. I mean, he's about to lose Virgil, so I think Oscar's gonna. I'm sure Oscar will be around, but Dana hates Oscar, and Oscar creates problems with everybody because he's Oscar. That's a whole different thing. That's why he should just give it to Bernard and let Bernard run the whole damn thing because everybody respects Bernard, unlike Oscar. Um. So, and then you have fucking Top Rank. They're kind of shit in the bed. It's gonna really come down to, and this kind of like supersedes the argument I'm gonna go into. Which guy does Turkey like? And I think Turkey likes both of them. Here's the thing. Before I get the whole Dana White versus Eddie Hearn and what both have said and all this stuff, the one thing that I don't really get is eventually there's going to be stars they have. And it sort of alludes to where I was going in the video. Where one of these guys or both of them are going to have to go, okay. Because here's the thing. If Dana White is still going to be on this thing, and he's doubling down, and there's something that he said about Eddie Hearn that I think is ridiculous, and I'll get to that later. There's a lot of stuff where Dana is still like, it's us against boxing. It's us against the boxing establishment. But he has the biggest funder in the boxing game, Turkey Al-Sheikh. Now, the Ring Magazine supporting them is huge. And having Max Kellerman and all those guys on the, Mike Coppinger, having the Ring backing them, I'd really be interested to hear what Doug Fisher has to say about Zuffa. Because I think Doug Fisher, deep down, he's a true, he's a boxing for 30 years. I think him, I gotta be honest, if Burt Sugar was alive today, he'd have some fucking words about Zuffa. I'm just saying, the great Burt Sugar would have some issues with Zuffa. And it comes down to the fact that I'm gonna go. I'm gonna probably like little cuts in the video and stuff because I'm watching the interview. I saw like clips of what he said. I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start the video and I'm just gonna pause it when I get to a point where I don't know enough of the interview. I'm gonna watch it and then unpause the video and talk about it because he really. I'll start with this. So what Dana White has said so far in the interview, the parts I've watched, he is creating what he wants to term the new USA Tuesday Night Fights or the Friday Night Fights the ESPN had, which wasn't as good as USA Tuesday Night Fights, but it was still really solid. And there's not been a solid American like status of really good boxing since the 70s, 80s, and the early 90s. And I've said this about Zuffa boxing. I'm Dana White and this stuff. And let's be honest, he's not really running it because we just found out recently that Hunter Campbell's running the UFC. I'm not sure if it's Nick Khan, but there's somebody else really running Zuffa. It's not really Dana, but it seems like right now he's got more hands on with Zuffa than he does with the UFC. And eventually he's gonna have no hands on with Zuffa, but he wants to make sure it succeeds, and we'll get to that later in the video. But the one thing I've said about Dana and this stuff is I like what he wants to do. I'm at a regional, sort of domestic level from there. I think it's great to want to build American boxing back up. I think it's awesome. I think it's going to be great for the fighters. And it's something that American boxing really needs because, like, one of the greatest, I'd say, domestic fights. Now, it involved the guy who ended up being one of the best of all time. But one of the most, like, watched fights in New England, or sorry, not watch fights, but most talked about fights in New England for years, was a fight between Sugar Ray Leonard and Dick Eklund, who is the brother or is the half brother of Mickey Ward, who's the guy who Mark Wahlberg plays in The Fighter. Obviously, Mickey Ward had his awesome 3 fights with Arturo Gatti and all this stuff, and had a great career himself. But his brother Dick Eklund has this whole thing about, hey, I knocked out Sugar Ray Leonard, and I went and. At that time, Sugar Ray was like, he was a young prospect. He wasn't a contender. Like, and in the early parts of the fight, Dick Eklund was giving him trouble, and that was a good domestic fight. And you had those all over the country all the time. By the time we get to the mid 90s, we don't really have that anymore. We have you still get them, but they're nowhere near as common. And it's mostly just super high level boxers outboxing their way. Like a perfect example is a fight I watched last week between Joshua Pagan and was it Brian Jimenez, right? Yeah, I'm yeah, I think it was I think it was Brian Jimenez, right? I'm watching that fight and I'm sitting there going, okay, yeah, Jimenez is doing okay, but Pagan's winning the rounds. The fact of the matter is, in the old days of what's going on? Oh, breaking news: Michael Chiesa is going to retire after a fight on March 28th. Good for him, man. He's had a long career. Good for Chiesa. I'm sure Isaiah will talk about that in a future video. So yeah, um, it's good, to want to bring back that regional domestic scene in American because Mexican boxing is pretty good. Canadian boxing is not as bad as you think. They don't produce great champions, but they produce pretty good, solid fighters who have gone all over the world and have had a couple upsets, and they actually produce some really. I think their boxing is very balanced because they have great women fighters too, as well as great male fighters. They're not the best, but it really honestly in terms of like USA boxing of boxing in America of Americans at the regional level. It's below like Canada and Mexico, who for years it was definitely better than Canada, and it was always up there with Mexico. Almost every country in the Americas, pretty much, and most countries in Europe, and honestly, besides like Africa, like I think the American scene is below most of it right now in the last 20 years. It has been getting better even before Dana with stuff like Pro Box and other stuff, but that's different, thing. And here's the thing, Dana says no one's doing it. Pro Box is doing it. Pro Box has been doing it for years. The problem with Pro Box is sorry, let me rephrase that. It's not a problem. Pro Box is still a part of the boxing establishment. So you're never going to get true 50-50 fights all the time. You're going to get 50-50 fights on every card, but you're going to get some fights that are 70-30, 60-40, some, maybe some 80-20 fights. You are going to get those. It is 100% going to happen. Um, it's just an inevitability, to be honest with you. It's just a huge inevitability. Um, so once you get to that point where you know that you're going to get to that point where these fighters are going to advance, and this is going to lead me into the next point, that I want to talk about with Dana is that he has talked about, oh hey, all these fighters love fighting for us, and they think that they're fighting for like, we got so like he's pretty much obviously. Here's the thing: years ago, everything he said I would believe because I kind of grew up watching him talk about stuff, and then it would happen. Hey, Connor's gonna fight this guy, then it would happen. So naturally, as especially for MMA fans, like Isaiah and all those guys, they're in almost in, it's his instinct to believe Dana, whether they want to or not. It's subconscious. They've seen him talk about stuff, and it happens. And I think that's honestly, I mean, Isaiah talked about this a little bit. I think it's why Isaiah struggled with the UFC's shitty matchmaking and semi decline in some areas in the last 3 or 4 years because it's clearly not been Dana. It's been Hunter the whole time, and Isaiah feels betrayed because he's been talking about how great Hunter is, and a little did he, oh my sweet summer child. I referenced to a night in the Seven Kingdoms there. Well, not. You know what I mean. I didn't know what I mean. What is this fucking ever Fiverr guy? I don't care about your damn ads. Get off fucking ping. Um, it gets down to a fact that yes, they are creating a brand and they're doing great stuff in boxing. And I didn't watch it. I don't have Paramount. I watched the clips. I've watched the fight highlights. It looks put together. It looks like honestly the Tuesday Night Contender series. It looks like that. It looks good. But let's not kid ourselves. And I think Dana is conscious of this. he knows that they're not going to be affecting world level boxing for at least 2 or 3 years. They might have spurts of it, which are Pattaya and stuff like that, but that's going to be on a co-promotional level. Jai is going to have to, and that's one of the things that I'll just go into now real quick. Because they have Jai, they're going to have to work with Eddie and some of these guys. He's going to have to work with Oscar. He's going to have to work with these guys because Jai wants to unify. He wants to be undisputed, and pretty sure Oscar manages Zerto, right? I think so. He has to work with him, or Jai's not going to fight Zerto. Now, if it's David Benavidez, I could see that happening with Benavidez. You know, if I gotta be honest, Benavidez to talk about that he says after he fights Zerto, he wants to fight Obatala. Okay, holy shit, that'd be fucking awesome. He says he wants to go fight Bivol. I'm like, hey Benavidez, go. I actually think he's a better chance to beat Jai than Bivol personally, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but we're gonna see Zuffa tested with Jai, and I feel like they're gonna probably succeed with it to the point where Dana is gonna have to like say these things. Well, yeah, I never said I wouldn't work with them, like, and he'll have to renege. And my point being is he does this all the time, where, and now that I'm like older and I know, and I'm an adult, it's obvious that he just says stuff as a promoter. And the thing is, as a boxing fan, I've known this about promoters for years. Listen, I love Eddie Hearn, but he will say what he needs to say in a certain interview for a certain interviewer about a certain topic at a different time. And I've known that for years, since like 2018, 2019. I've known that about him, Frank Warren, all the boxing guys. And I just started realizing that about Dana, that he does the same thing in MMA. The difference is no one's been able to question him in MMA. So all the MMA fans, and me to some degree, our subconscious is to believe Dana. Hey, what he says and what he does. It's not going to be the same in boxing. It is not going to be the same. And going back to what he has said so far in this interview, is the fact that he has said that, hey, when these fighters come here, they think, they feel like that they're being signed by the Patriots and all this stuff. That's cool to feel, and I think it's great that they're treating. And there is one point that Dana makes that I do agree with 100%. He has said that there's this myth in boxing that boxing fighters get paid more than MMA guys, and I agree with what he says, which is it's a complete falsehood. In totality, if you took 30 MMA guys, let's say 25 in UFC and 5 in different other promotions, or let's just say you took 5 guys from one championship or Bellator, right? 30 guys overall. You then take 30 boxing guys, take like 6 or 7 from Matchroom, Queensbury, Perfectively, from Golden Boy, and you put them all together. And we're talking about 30 world level fighters. 30 world level fighters, right? Or at least contender level guys. The boxing guys, per fight. I'm talking about the best guys. I'm talking about the top 525 UFC guys and the top 25 sort of boxers. The boxers' payroll would dwarf the UFC payrolls. Dwarf it altogether. Those top 25 guys who are, most of them are some half pound guys, blah blah, obviously, and UFC, they would dwarf. Now, if you extend that to, let's take 100 guys who fight in the lower, who are not ranked in the UFC, 100 guys, or maybe some guys who, maybe, Cage Fury, LFA, some Bellator guys, take like, let's say, not 100 guys, let's say 200 guys, just mid-level, mixed martial artists, and then get 200 mid-level boxers. The MMA guys would dwarf the mid-level boxers' pay because the disparity from mid-level boxing, and honestly, contender level boxing, really, to world level is such a big disparity in pay. It's massive. I have a video coming about Raymond Ford, and he didn't make he was making 60, 50 grand a fight because he was one of the top ranked guys. But his opponents, he had opponents that were making like $1,000. I'm not talking about when he was like 6-0. I'm talking about a good there's a solid British fighter he fought called Reece Bellotti. He fought him in 2021. And Maurice Bellotti was 14-4. He's a good fighter. He's 20-7. He actually had a pretty close fight with Josh Paddy last year, and he just had some pretty good wins in that area. He took on Rainford with 8-1, and I've heard that Reese Bellotti made $3 grand for that fight. Now he obviously would have won more if he had won, but he made he made $3 grand for that fight. And this was a matchroom card. $3 grand. A guy like him in MMA would make UFC would make at worst 20 grand. So going back to what Dana has said, he is correct in that regard. That the whole myth that boxers get paid more. Here's the thing: at the top level, they're always going to get paid more than the UFC. They're always going to get paid more than MMA guys. It's going to happen. The million anyway is always going to get paid more than Alexander Volkanovski, even if more people know Alex Volkanovski around the world. You have to be a Conor level person to get more money than boxers. Most boxers. That's the point. But to say that's on a whole level is incorrect, and Dana is right about that. If you take it in total, MMA guys overall make way more than boxing guys overall because so many guys at the bottom, and pretty much right below the top level, all those guys make pretty much dog shit. There was a guy in our gym. Oh my god, I forgot his name. Maybe like Sam Sims or Simpson. I forgot the guy's name. Good boxer, was like 7-3 in his career. He was 7-2, and then he had a fight. I remember I was training for my second amateur fight, and he had a fight against this guy who was 3-0, and the 3-0 guy knocked him out and like knocked out his mouthpiece and like broke his jaw. And I think I said it was Sam. He was done. He was like, "That's it, I'm done." And in 10 fights, he had made 10 grand. He had one fight where he made 5 grand because he went up when he was like 6-1, and he fought on the undercard of like a Golden Boy show, not like a Showtime show. It was like a I don't know if it was on the Zone, but it was like it was like a thing at Thunder Studios, and I think it's where it was, Thunder Studios in LA. He went there, he got 6 grand to show up. He got knocked out by some Mexican guy, and then he went home. That was his pay. He got paid 6 grand just to show up and go 2 rounds and get beat. That means that he had made 4 grand in 9 fight, which I don't know what that comes out to, but that comes out to like what, like what, 500 a fight, right? 500 a fight. Now, this isn't like the days because there's back when the great Marvin Hagler, like my obviously right there, my favorite fighter of all time, no question. There was times in the 60s he got paid $40 a fight. That doesn't happen anymore. It might happen in Tijuana or something for a guy who's like 6-80, but like it doesn't really happen anymore. Guys get paid $40. You do get paid a little more than $40, but you know, this guy I'm talking about, like he had one fight where he got a decent payday, and that was it. And 6 grand, it really isn't that much to be honest, especially nowadays in this fucking economy. So at an overall level, I have to agree with what Dana has said. It is good that Zuffa is going to treat these guys. They're going to give them 30, 40, 50 grand a fight, which is good for some of these guys. It's great for these guys who are 9-0 or 10-1. And let's say you're a guy who joins Zuffa and you lose 4 straight fights. Let's say you're a 12-0 guy. You go to Zuffa, you lose 4 straight fights, you're 12-4. Your contract's up. And then you go fight at local American shows and you win 10 straight fights. Or let's say you win 20 straight fights. You will have, I guarantee it. And let's say I'm this 12-0 guy. He goes 12-4, gets, let's say he, after 4 straight fights, he loses all 4 fights, and let's say they're all pretty exciting. But let's say he gets no bonuses. He just makes, let's say he makes 45 grand a fight to show up. That means I actually have to do math. I'm not good with math. What's 45 times 4? I'm an idiot. I should know this, bro. I'm fucking 24 years old. All right, so that's 180, right? That's 180,000. Take out expenses, it's probably 100, because he probably has 80 grand in expenses. So let's just say it's 100 that he's made for 4 fights. 100 grand. He is going to make half that for the next 15 fights at smaller venues because those guys cannot pay more than 10, 15 grand. They just can't. They're not going to make that enough. So what Zuffa is doing for these guys is great. In terms of raising the bar of what boxers should make on a subsistence level, it's awesome. And I've said that for years about Dana if he ever got into boxing, and now he is. That's the one thing he will do. He will get these mid-level, low-level guys who are 6-0 or 7-0 or 10-1 or 12-2 or 13-1 or 16-4. He'll get these guys good money. Like one of the guys who fought in this car was, I think his name was Casey James Streeter or something like that. The guy was like 15-5 or something like that. I guarantee you, that guy probably made, I don't know, 30, 40 grand to show himself. He probably never ever made that for any other fight in his 20-fight career. I'd be surprised if he made that in total for all his fights. I'd be shocked. He probably has made more than that overall, but still. So many of these guys are going to come to Zuffa at the lower levels because the pay is going to be good. The problem is, and this is where Dana does it, I don't think he's seeing it, these guys aren't going to stay. Because guess what? Dana is not going to be able to create what they have in the UFC, where you have a guy who's 10-8 and fighting a guy who's 9-3, and that can be your first prelim. That can't be your first prelim in boxing if you're going to go by the absence of 50-50 fights. That 10-8 guy might beat the 9-3 guy in MMA. He's not going to beat the 9-3 guy in boxing. It's possible, it could happen, but so many people will go, well, eventually Dana's no. He's never going to get to that point in his lifetime. Maybe in 20, 30 years, he can, and this is going to require Sheikh Turkey's money. Sheikh Turkey's going to have to get rid of it. You pretty much, to get what he has in MMA, he's going to have to get rid of all the other box promoters. He's going to have to execute them. He's going to have to, assume the sanctioning bodies. He's going to pretty much have to destroy the sport and build it back up, which he can't do. He can't do. Nobody's going to let him do that. And I've said this in many other videos. But what he's doing at a subsistence level, I salute Dana for that, and it is great for the sport. Now, I'm going to pause here because I want to watch the rest of this video. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I've watched a little more, and I do have one thing to say about this interview. Dana has talked about how Eddie and these guys are feeling pressure. Yeah, they'll feel. One thing I want to comment on this. It is possible that Dana White and Zuffa get to a point where they are with Matchroom, with Queensbury, with these guys at the top level. But he's never going to ascend to be bigger than them. Maybe in 30 years, it could be done. But he's not going to do that for the next 5-10 years. He might get even with them and have massive events. And then he'll go, hey, this event we just put on was bigger than anything Matchroom's ever done. And I'm going to get to that later in a little bit. But it's just hilarious how he just thinks that, it's over. We've already won. We're just going to win. And he's so used to winning with the UFC that eventually something's going to happen to him at Zuffa, where a fighter or something happens where he's going to sit there like he did after Conor and Khabib and go, this is only what we're about. Or it's going to be something like the worst moment of his UFC career as promoter was probably when Anderson fought, Damian Maia, and the Abu Dhabi spent millions of dollars with slave labor, let's be honest, getting that stadium for Anderson and getting it all, and then Anderson shit the bed with the stupidest performance ever against Damian Maia. And Ariel Helwani asked Dana, is this your lowest moment? He goes, oh yeah, it's the lowest moment. And people have asked him, and he goes, yeah, that's still the worst moment. He's going to have a moment like that at Zuffa Boxing. He can say he's not. He's going to have a moment like that where they have this ultra exciting fighter who's going to fight like Anderson did that night, and Dana's going to sit there, and he's not going to say what he said against, Miguel Ferreira, because he knows better. He's going to be like, hey, and he'll say what he has to say. He'll give the politic answer, which he's gotten good at now. Any of these guys have been doing it for years, and Dana's getting better with it. I'm just telling you, look through the answer when he gives it. Look through it. Or just ignore it, because he's never going to... This is not the UFC. He's not going to give you the full truth. He hasn't been giving us truth in terms of UFC interviews since 2019. because he realizes shit. Over the years, I've said some dumb things in interviews, and they're hilarious clips, but they probably hurt my business. So yeah, and the second thing I want to mention is the whole boxing establishment. The sanctioning bodies, the sanctioning bodies don't help their case by stripping Shakur or doing these things. And I gotta be honest, I agree with Dana. Maurizio Salami talking about Zuffa boxing is a massive PR move for Zuffa boxing. Because Maurizio is saying, we're great for boxing. The only big giant he has in his corner is Canelo. When Canelo retires, there is not going to be a big boxing giant who is not. I'm talking about a fighter who is going to be is right now the only guy who let's be honest. I think we can all assume that Canelo's going to fight in Billy in September. Most likely, it's going to be in Billy, which would be great. I would love that fight. Because we all know Canelo's going to come back for a title fight, right? It's obvious he'll come back for a title fight. It's probably going to be in Billy because he's been elevated to WBC middleweight champion. I wouldn't be shocked if it's for the WBO. I wouldn't be shocked if it's for the IBF. But the IBF will probably be versus Iglesias. I don't know if Canelo would win that fight, but it would be like he'd win like 116, 112. You'd get. I think Iglesias has some good skills that he's not perfected, but he's got some really good skills. I think Iglesias is really underrated in that division. But it's most likely, in my opinion, it's going to be him and Billy, which is great. Obviously, he wants Crawford. Not going to happen, Canelo. Sorry, he's not. And let's see, I love Crawford, but he's not an honorable Mexican warrior. He's not. He's a great. He's one of the greatest fighters of all time. Nobody's saying Bud Crawford's honorable. I don't think Bud says he's honorable. Fuck honor. I want money and respect, and he's got it. Capiche. But yes, I do agree with Dana. I think that the Abrizzo Soleimani, or as Kaya says from our mate from Papa Boxing, Maurizio Salami. He doesn't. He's really just shooting himself in the foot by saying, "Oh, these guys are bad at boxing," and then does something so stupid like purse bids or all the. It's just stupid, and he's done it with Bud and Shakur, two of the biggest boxers in the world right now, especially in America. Like if you ask any American fan, "Hey, who's your top 5 American boxers?" People would give Bud and Shakur. They'd be in your top 5 for sure, especially after Shakur just beat Tio. Prior to that, I don't know, but definitely now. And it just doesn't make sense why he just keeps talking. It's like, dude, let Eddie, let Frank, let these guys promote your title by not saying it and just have them fight for it. And he's being stupid. Because really, the only big giants he has in his corner is Canelo, and then I guess Usyk. But both are going to be done in 3 or 4 years. So it's like, what are you doing? But then again, that's the sanctioning bot. Because most, let's say, Humberto Ruiz, who runs the IBF, you never see that guy. Or Mendoza, who runs the WBA, or I don't know whoever runs the IBF and the WBA and the WBO, you don't see those guys ever. You never see them, which is good. You shouldn't see them. I don't want to see them, but we see Maurizio Salami everywhere. It's fucking awesome. It's fucking hilarious. Cool little thing here. Someone asked Dana about the UFC heavyweight division, and it's like, could Max Crosby, the Las Vegas Raiders defensive end, save it? And Dana smiles, and he's like, maybe. Means it's dead. Luke Thomas is correct. Me and Isaiah have been saying this for a year. Scrap the division. Just get rid of it. It's over. It's over. Once you got rid of Rosen Striker, who's top to everyone. Get rid of him. It sucks. Yeah, it's fucking over. And honestly, it was on the precipice of being if Tom Aspinall had knocked out Cyril Gahn, it would be back. And it went the other way. John Jones, undefeated and undisputed. That's for Isaiah, guys, by the way. All right. So one thing Dana has said in this interview that he said that we're gonna get the best guys to fight the best, and that's all well and good. My whole thing is there's going to be a point where if he gets all these best guys, how are we really going to know who's best in the world? Because we're still going to have guys like Eddie, other promotions building up world champion fighters. And unless they fight guys from Zuffa, we're going to have eventually Zuffa and everybody else. and the Ring Magazine's going to put them all together. Or the Ring Magazine eventually is going to probably just more support Zuffa. And then eventually, when they have a combined thing, let's say Zuffa guys all lose, or the majority lose. Well, Dana looks like an idiot. Now, if most of his guys win, he looks like a genius. So it's a shot in the dark in a way, which, that's part of the sport, I guess. Okay, so Dana has said that he expected more from the boxing establishment as like a pushback. And all I got to say to that is they're not going to push back on you because you're working with Turkey. If they push back a lot on you, Turkey's going to go, hey, that's my thing. I got money in Zuffa. That's why any of these guys are, Eddie will say his thing, but Frank's not. Because the thing with Eddie is, I'll get to it later when Dana's going to talk about Eddie and he's done nothing in the sport. I'll get to that, in a little bit in the video. But Eddie's the one promoter in the world that doesn't need Turkey to survive. And people can go, yeah, he needs Turkey. He doesn't. And I'll get to stuff by Joshua, but just to say, when Anthony Joshua was conquering the world, did he have Turkey? No, he didn't have Turkey. Okay, it's a fighter game. It's not about it's about money, obviously. But if you have the right guy and the right superstar, okay, just and I don't. And when it comes to like Frank, he ain't gonna say shit. Fucking, all the small time guys on the zone working with Turkey, they're not gonna say anything. They're going to want to work with Dana and Turkey because they don't want to get fucking pushed out of the money. But we'll get to that in a little bit. And he's like, I expected more. He said, I expected more. They're so out of their league. Really? Really out of their league? Now, when it comes to America, maybe. Maybe out of your league. But it's the world, Dana. There's a planet. And the one thing he's never going to be able to do is take over all levels. He might someday take over world level boxing. And good. But if he does that soon, it's not going to last. He's going to have to build it up for years and years and years. And there's going to be people going up beside him. And I don't think he understands that. That, like, to succeed at the very top, he's going to have to do more cooperation than he ever did in MMA. He didn't cooperate with anybody. It was world fucking domination. Fuck everybody. We're the UFC. Yeah. It's never going to work in boxing. It's never going to work if he just says, fuck everybody. Fuck this. Because he got Turkey's money. If he doesn't have... Let's be honest. We all know this. If he didn't have Turkey's money, he wouldn't be in boxing. That's just a fucking fact of the matter is. Not like a structure, but the fact that he's able to do this, what he's done already, they would have no chance of doing it without Turkey. No chance of doing it. And everybody knows that. Okay? Capiche. I just want to say one thing. I can't wait for fucking... I know Cougs from IFL AT's going, Eddie, we're going to respond. We're going to put a new Eddie Hearn Raw video on there. Eddie, come on. Text me back, Eddie. Text me back. I just can't. Cougs and those guys from IFL are going... When they saw us, they were blazing. Eddie, we're going to talk about this. I can't remember his response. Not from Eddie. I just can't remember the IFL guys. They go, can you believe this guy? This is what's good about boxing right now. Is besides the fact about Dana succeeding or Eddie Hearn in this, the fact that people are talking about it so much is fucking good. It's really good, man. It's great everyone's talking about it now. And that's the one thing Dana's going to do. He is going to bring more eyes to the sport by being Kingpin. He's literally just, look at the guy. He's fucking Kingpin. He's fucking Kingpin, dude. And Kingpin is a popular guy. And he brings... People are going to probably watch boxing to see Kingpin in the fucking first row. The Zuffa boxing trailer, he looks like fucking Kingpin. That does not help at all. Fucking hilarious. Cougs, Eddie! Okay, so I finished his interview, and he talked about how Eddie Hearn has done nothing in boxing. I mentioned this just a little bit ago. What has Eddie Hearn done in boxing? Well, he has, listen to me, the one thing Dana said that I agree with is that, well, there's no visionaries in the sport. Yeah, because you can't change boxing. If you're going to change, see, when he says visionaries, I think he means like, we want to put on the best fights all the time. Isn't that what happened in the 70s, 80s, and 90s? Isn't that what happened most of the time? So all those guys, they were visionaries, right? Everybody since then has been terrible. and I guess there's some credence to that argument in particular. But what he's saying is, like, none of these guys have a vision like me. I'm gonna change boxing. He, I want to clarify for people. He's going to change the status quo. He's going to change it to where it gets to the point where it was in the 60s, 70s, where everybody, the best is fighting the best, and there's a ranking system, and it's kind of all together in a certain way. Less discombobulated or whatever. But he's not going to change the sport itself, and I think he needs to clarify that because eventually people are going to be confused. Wait, how is he changing? But like in 20 years, they'll go. He said he's going to change boxing, but everything's the same. They're still fighting, and there's still the same rules. And he'll go, "That's not what I meant. It's not what I meant." And so he's just, he's doing his typical kingpin speech. And also, uh, uh, there is one thing that I really want to get into about the difference between, the media in boxing and MMA. The MMA media that is allowed at their press conferences is so handpicked and so like pro the promotion that yes, I've kind of always known that for years. There's a reason why Ariel Helwani's not allowed around there. There's a reason why so many of these great journalists are not around the UFC. Like he exploded against Sean Zettel or Zeitel. You guys know what I'm talking about. He exploded against him at the Canelo Crawford press conference, and he's probably he probably went back after and goes, how did that guy get in here? He shouldn't have been in here, man. What the fuck? Because and I've seen videos of people getting denied Zuffa boxing access because the Zuffa guys, they want people who are going to be yes men for Dana. So people watch the press conference, they go, oh wow, people are agreeing with Dana. Well, maybe he really, and then it changes your mind if you're a fucking idiot. No offense to people out there, but myself sometimes, most people are fucking idiots. So when you're watching a promoter get told your event's great, oh yeah, it was, wasn't it? As a fan, if you don't know anybody, you go, oh yeah, it was pretty great, wasn't it? And that's why, for the rest of my life, I'm going to be saying stuff contrary to that. You have tons of guys in boxing who are going to be saying stuff against that. I think that Gareth A. Davies used to be like that. I think he's kind of getting to be yes man. He's getting older. I don't think he wants to get into fucking shit anymore. But he's giving shit to Eddie and these guys for years, and it's great. And honestly, I really would like Simon Jordan to sit down with Dana White one day. That would be if Simon Jordan from Talksport sits down with Dana White, which will never happen because Dana's never going to want to get rid of that guy. Simon Jordan's the only guy in boxing, like as a pundit, a host, who could jab Dana and get him to, and just because we saw he fucking provoked Wilder, which is he's easy to provoke, I know, but like the way Wilder went, wow. If Simon can do that, man, oh, I can't wait to see him and Dana. Simon Jordan, Dana White, book it, lock it in. Uh, here's the thing. He's eventually, let's be honest, he's going to stay away, Dana. He's going to stay away from the British scene. He's going to have to stay away from the British scene because Frank and Eddie have that pretty much on lock, as well as all the smaller guys. And as I've said before, if Dana is able to do what he says he's going to do, all credit to him. It is going to be good for boxing. It's not going to be good for the top level guys because eventually, if he does change boxing, top level guys will not be getting paid $20 million a fight. They'll be getting paid $2 million a fight, and they're going to complain about that. And the problem is, you think, well, if Shake Turkey, I'm sure will be around, but eventually that well is going to eventually decrease. Unless the Saudis just rule the world one day, which who knows? They have the money to buy it. So if let's just say the Saudis become the trade federation from Star Wars, well, they can just fund everything. There you go, corruption galore. It's just so funny to hear him just so excited about how great he's already doing when everybody else in the boxing world, very minor, myself included, is going like, yeah, but are you though? You sure? You sure you do it? Now, going off Eddie Hearn back to the point about him doing nothing in boxing. He works for his dad. Well, he doesn't work for his dad anymore. And yes, he isn't. Yes, there aren't no visionaries in the sport. You know why? Because the last guys who tried to be visionaries were HBO Boxing. They tried. And they did a great job of making the sport a good status quo. They had to go with the status quo. You know why? Because of sanctioning bodies and commissions. Now, the commissions have been a problem for the UFC because they're a promotion that dominates. They don't have to worry about sanctioning bodies. The sanctioning bodies are going to put up a fight. Now, as I mentioned, Maurizio Salami isn't helping, but the sanctioning bodies are still going to have talent. They're still going to be able to procure talent from other promoters, and you're going to have this other thing going on. And I'm just kind of in my head thinking, does Dana think it's going to end in 3 years? It's going to be a 20-year thing. Where now, who knows? Maybe stuff changes. Who the fuck knows? But if Dana loses even some of the Saudi money, it's over. Let's say Sheikh Turkey. Let's say he, unfortunately, God forbid. I hope he stays alive. He's great for boxing. But let's say he gets out of boxing for some reason tomorrow. Zuffa is dead. Zuffa's dead. They're dead. They're completely dead because that's why they're around. It's because it's Sheikh Turkey. And so is the rest of the boxing. And Sheikh Turkey is the main reason why boxing is doing great right now. He is one of the main reasons, not the only reason. And going back to what Dana said about Eddie Hearn, how he's done nothing for boxing. I mentioned this earlier. You're going to call what he did, promoting Anthony Joshua, getting him to the biggest fights in the world, making him at one point prior to the Ruiz fight, which was probably a big bad blow for Eddie. That was fucking terrible for Eddie to lose to Andy Ruiz. I mean, it would have been better if Joshua lost to Miller because they would have had a trilogy or something. But the problem with Ruiz is that when he lost to Ruiz, a guy who wasn't really well known, wasn't very good, or thought wasn't very good, it kind of it destroyed AJ's image. Unfortunately, AJ's image it's sort of recovered now. He's beat Jake Paul, but now with the tragedy of his friends, it's in limbo now. But his image was prior to the fight with Miller scheduled. Joshua was the heavyweight champion of the world. And yeah, there was Wilder, but you had Wilder and Fury having the fights, and we thought they were having, and they were there, but Joshua was the man. He was the biggest boxing star in the world. And who was his promoter? This guy, Mr. Eddie Hearn. Not his dad, not AJ's manager, Eddie Hearn. He was mostly behind it. Now, yes, you have to have the right fighter, but you cannot tell me that he done nothing in the sport. He's done nothing? Okay. Now, has he done what Dana has done in the UFC? No. Because we haven't had that since Ali. And it's a fighter-based business. And Dana eventually, if he doesn't get the right guys, he's going to suffer. And, exciting fights are great. Exciting fights are awesome for a sport. It's going to be great to watch it forever. But you need to have the best guys that can beat the other best. And if Dana doesn't have that, eventually he's going to struggle. So we'll see. I just got to say, I am looking forward to Dana versus Eddie. I'm looking forward to Dana versus boxing because it's not like he's going to win. And it's not like he's really going to lose. And we'll see how it turns out. And I'm excited to see how the shitstorm goes because eventually, I can't wait to see Eddie's response. I can't wait to see people talk about it. I can't wait to listen to Proper Boxing this week. I just can't wait for all of it because everyone's going to be on Dana's ass about, hey, be great now, be great now. He'll go, well, check this in a year. And we'll see. Here's the thing. The one thing that if Dana White can do at the end of the year is if he can, this has got him relegation that Kurt just posted the video. Kurt's like a Jairo versus Martin reflections. I'm going to watch that right away. I love Kurt. Kurt's the man, dude. I love Kurt. Man, shout out to Kurt from Counterpunch and Boxing News, man. Hey Kurt, counterpunch to you, man. He's the best. He's one of the best in the business. We'll see how Dana and Eddie works out, man. We'll see. We will see. All right, guys. The war begins. All right, guys. That's gonna do it. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, the whole business. And my name is Jake. Once again, thanks for watching. And remember, the greatest fighters always leave it all in the final round. See you guys.